this seems like a crazy idea. I'm sure you have, you know, the questions you want to ask me, but this is a pretty ridiculous idea, a laser guitar.
Do you like when you heard the idea? Were you like, yeah, that's pretty cool, or were like, oh really?
Yeah. I mean, it's the idea is great. I mean, a laser guitar sounds amazing. It just sounds like a nightmare to pull off. It sounds like a complete nightmare to do this project.
It's always a nightmare. Every YouTube video, it's always a nightmare to pull off in different ways, I think.
Sure, but like, I don't know, like there's different levels of nightmare, right? It's like sometimes it's just making the video that's hard, but like when you have the engineering on this is going to be like, it's going to suck.
Yeah, that's the good thing. I'm not very good at electronics. I started with it like last year, but I do have someone who usually helps me. But the good thing with not being good at things is that you don't know how hard it's going to be when you start with it. So you're like,
sure.
Now I'm like excited for it. But as I go on, when I realize the intricacies, it might be different. Just one question before I forget it. Which I think it's like the core thing. Laser color. What laser color do you think would be like? Do you have a favorite? Is it cyan, like blue? I noticed you use it a lot.
So it's it depends, right? Like you know, I obviously like all forms of lasers, but cyan is a nice color. Part of it was a hard color for a lot of hobbyists to get until like fairly recently, at least into something you could like make a handheld laser out of. But I mean, cyan's nice. I mean, if you're making like guitar strings, you could, I mean, there's a lot of options. You could use different colors, or you could use, you know, the same color. But I do like cyan. I like yellow too, but that one's pretty hard to do.
Oh, did you see? I sent like some sketches to you. Was it a yellow?
Yeah.
Did one of them have yellow laser? I think that was my favorite.
I can't remember.
No, one was like rainbow, but someone told me, I think it was on your Discord, because I'm usually, when I do projects related to electronics, I go to your Discord and ask for.
Yeah. There's a lot of people much smarter than me on there.
Have you played guitar like ever?
No, unfortunately, I have no musical ability at all. I wish I did, but I don't.
Do you know like the bass? Do you know how it works, kind of?
I mean, barely.
I can't. Okay, like the first issue with lasers is that I want the lasers to be the strings. Otherwise, it's like not very cool. You want to like remove the strings, and instead, when you like turn off the guitar, the lasers just and you have the laser strings. One issue with that is that when you pick the strings, they're going to disappear from the top of the guitar, because you're fretting up here and you're picking what note that will make the sound. So the first solution for that was having 12 lasers. So it's one row of lasers just for the picking hand, and then it gets like renewed for the fretting hand. And then I know this is not like, the more I think
that's one way you could do it, right?
How would you
that is hard.
Can you before I change what you think of things, can you just say the first idea you had? What was that?
Well, the first idea I had, which wasn't a good idea, but I imagined like having like a giant array of photodiodes. So you have you have laser beams going over them, and then maybe you separate like over the frets with like a piece of acrylic or something, and then where your fingers would land, the photodiodes would pick it up. But that really isn't a good idea, just because it's like, well, then you have this like, I mean, how many separate notes are there on a guitar? Like there's a lot, right?
6 times 22. What's that?
Okay, 600. So that's like
something
120, 132, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 132 photodiodes.
Wait, it gets more, because if it only one note on a guitar, like note, it will sound very bland. Versus if you have like almost a note, you get what I mean? It's like, so you. Is it bad?
It's just like, it gets so complicated. Like, one piece of advice is this is a YouTube video, and you're allowed to like make like a prototype that isn't perfect from the start, and then you could even have a series of it, right?
Yeah.
This is hard to pull off. This sounds like a nightmare. I mean, it's not that it's impossible, but I guess it all depends on like how accurate do you want it to resemble a real guitar, and then also like how perfect does the function have to be?
Yeah.
Like if you're willing to like make some sacrifices in the
yeah. Definitely.
You know,
we have
and how
to,
it's
I think.
Sure.
Like-
Because the big thing is, and I didn't even really consider this, is because you got to have two hands. and all of my designs in my head were all just based on like, you know, poking, you know, every single note and then not strumming.
I think like a sacrifice could be that this hand controls maybe like the loudness of whatever this does. Like, I'm not sure what this hand will do though. Honestly, I kind of think of the idea being cool first, and then I try to think, why should this exist? And I try to like make sense of why it should exist.
I like that approach though. I like that approach.
What's the hardest project you have done on your channel ever?
So what I called my overclocked plasma lighter, that was a pretty hard one to pull off, just because it felt like I was like, there's no information. All the literature was in a language I can't speak, and even that was like really like
Was
sparse.
it Russia?
So, yeah, Russian.
Course.
Everything was in Russian. Yeah. So that was a pretty hard one to optimize.
Okay, how hard is this, you think? Like when you imagine it, can you rate it on a scale 1 to 10? For a beginner electronics beginner.
Oh, for a beginner, this is horrible. For a beginner, this is a horrible project. I mean, even like, I hear this project and I'm like, oh, like I would hate to have to build that. To be fair, I'm not good at electronics.
You're a chemist, right? Like primarily.
Yeah, and like I'm really more into like the physics. Like I feel like I have a good grasp on electromagnetism, but like when it comes to like circuits, especially like or specifically like digital circuits, like I don't know anything about digital circuits, and I imagine you're gonna need some sort of digital processing to pick up whatever giant array of information is going to come from your laser guitar.
But color, we were not sure. You kind of like many colors. I feel like green, that's kind of what you imagine like a kid when he's abroad and he gets a laser pointer and he comes home and point it at people. And red, I feel like it's kind of cat toy vibes.
Yeah, and red's hard to video too. Red is for a lot of reasons, red is hard to make good video with, yes.
Can you say one reason?
The two biggest is that red, our eyes are not very sensitive to red, so cameras are kind of made that way where they don't pick up red super strongly. And then also, if you want the beams to be visible, which I'm sure you would, then it doesn't. Because it's a long wavelength, it doesn't scatter very well, so it's hard to make the beams really show up. And green's a good one because it's really bright. And then if you go a little bit bluer, like cyan, that's also a good choice because it's bright and it's easy to make the beams show up. So those are both good choices.
Your most popular videos is usually blue, I noticed.
Yeah, but
that's
part of that
is it maybe.
It's more that like the technology for blue. There's more reason to make huge blue laser diodes, so it's like and I'm at the mercy of them, right? So it's
yeah, that's true. I almost forgot maybe one of the most important questions. Your fingers is going to have these things like burning at you. What's the highest power that you would go without? I mean, a little sting would be fine.
This is a good question because there's a couple of things here. So for one, do you want to have feedback that you're hitting the string or not? Because you can feel that with an yeah. So it's like you could make it so like you can feel that the beam is hitting your finger. With a real guitar, I mean, you can actually feel the string, but with like weak lasers, you have to look at it to see what you're hitting, right? Yeah. So like. The
closer you are here, the more pain you get, basically.
Well, actually, depends all on the optics. Like you could easily make it where it hurts worse far away than up close. The real risk here is the eye hazard. And that's like by far the most dangerous. Yeah. So like if you have a laser that you can feel warmth on your finger, it can obliterate your eyes in like a split second. So it's like
let's say I get like not the eBay glasses, but like the proper ones for that laser wavelength. My eyes are not safe still, right, for direct, or are they?
Yes, they're safe then. Yeah. So even if like a laser bounces off something and hits you straight in the goggles, and then you'll be fine if you have the proper laser goggles for them.
How do I test that the laser goggles is like? Do I put it in front of the camera and close my eyes and then look at the footage or something?
I mean, I've done that. Even though, like, if you buy it from a reputable source, that won't be a big of a deal. But there's one big issue here. So when you have proper laser goggles, it makes the laser beams look really dim.
Yeah, so you actually see it.
Yeah, you'll be able to see like the dot on your finger, but you won't be able to see the beams in midair.
Yeah, that's kind of dumb in a way. But I guess it could be markings on the guitar, like to save to save the player at least. Okay, if you would just ballpark the power between having, like, I kind of want full beams. Of course, we probably need to use a little fog. Do you use fog in your videos?
Yes. Just a little bit. Not always, but usually. And it doesn't take much.
It seemed pretty good at like 50 milliwatts.
Yeah. I think that's a good number to aim for in the strings, like 50 to 100. Because that way you can have so little fog that you won't even be able to see it on the camera, but the laser beams will be very bright.
And they will that's like maybe hurt just a tiny bit if you hold it a long time.
It depends on some factors, on if you focus, if you make the beams converge to a really small spot.
The beams will probably be 5 millimeters diameter.
Okay.
Is that standard, or is there standard?
Yeah, that's pretty normal. If you just throw like a common laser diode with a lens in front of it, that's about normal. So like at 50 milliwatts, I don't know if you'll be able to feel that very well.
So we should go higher?
Well, it
if
depends,
you want to feel it, I guess.
But the problem is there's still a delay. So, like, do you want your feedback to be pain? Do you want it to hurt when you play?
For the video, it would be nice, but
you can just go a little bit higher power, and it doesn't change that much.
What's the highest legal power you can own? No, wait, you don't have regulations for this, right?
Well, we have regulations, and that was another thing I wanted to talk to you about. So, like, it's funny how these regulations work. Like I can make and own pretty much anything I want, but like there's still a lot of restrictions on how I can use them or if I want to buy them. And usually it's the laser pointers that have big restrictions. Like for you're in Sweden, right?
Yeah, it's bad.
So like you can't have a laser pointer over 1 milliwatts. I know. Think.
That's like not even a cat toy, right?
Yeah, it's really lame. A lot of countries have a 1 milliwatt limit. Here it's 5. But sometimes if your laser device is plugged in, if it's tethered to the wall somehow, then you can get away with it.
I was thinking so much about this for days, and I was like, okay, I can't buy a taser here, and I can't buy a laser pointer because it's battery powered, but I can buy laser engravers that is way more powerful.
Exactly.
So could I just not plug it into power and it's a laser engraver?
Probably. And I don't know the laws there, but
off the record, I guess I could just film in my garage and be like, I'm in China right now. Look at the China flag.
That's always like the easy way out. But if it's tethered, there's a good chance you have a loophole then.
Okay, I have like a million questions. Do you know what LDR is?
Like LiDAR or?
No, not LiDAR. That was also mentioned though. It stands for something it's something resist light sensitive resistor that doesn't work with that.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I mean, there's all sorts of like photosensitive electrical components. Like there's photodiodes. There's photoresistors. There's all sorts of them. And I'm not super familiar with all their light curves or whatever. But yeah, you could use something other than photodiodes.
There was one guy in my comment section. This is lasers in cyan. Mm-hmm. And imagine you stop the laser with 2 fingers here. Okay. His idea was that there would be a ton of these LDRs or something. And when you stop the lasers, these would go from being blinded by a laser to not have a laser blinding them anymore. And based on how many of these are not blinded by a laser, you would know like where you stop the beam? Sorry, I think I butchered that idea. Do you get what I mean?
Well, I get the idea. I think.
Is it realistic?
I think that's too hard for that kind of idea. So if you're going to use a giant array of sensors, I think it would be easier, instead of like counting how many have the beam blocked, I think it'd be easier to have like a small gap of something transparent in between the beams and the detectors. So when you put your finger on it, the laser beam would hit your finger, and then it would just like illuminate the sensor right under it. Then you could just detect where the nearest one is. You don't have to use an array like this.
Honestly, when I thought of this idea, I was like, okay, lasers are good at one thing, and that's measuring distance. I can put on some lasers and I will get distance. But then it was like all triagonal flight, time of flight, something with triangle.
I've never used time of flight sensors, but I know, like, I figured, because instead you might have like, I don't know how many notes are along one string, but that's how many
22.
photodiodes. So, okay, 22. So that's how many photodiodes or whatever detecting components you'd have to use in an array per string. Yeah. But if you can figure out how to use a time of flight sensor, which are pretty standard components, again, I've never used one, but like it's something that's like pretty easy to find, and I would imagine it wouldn't be that hard to implement something like that, because then you only have one detector as opposed to 22. So that's like might be easier that way. Maybe.
Someone said something about time of flight that made it a bad idea, but I don't exactly remember what it was. Maybe they are big. Then it needs to be two of them, right? Because they kind of, I don't think it can be just one thing. It has to be a receiver like on top of it or something. I think I saw. Do you think
I'm surprised that they don't have a way to combine the beams, but if not, then there's a reason why they don't do that.
Yeah.
But
time of flight lasers, they are not visible, right? Are they?
No, but you
would use regular ones as aesthetics.
Well, what I would do, I don't know, I haven't experimented much with this, but I would just combine the beams. So like you can get mirrors that reflect some colors and let others through. So you could take a time of flight laser as well as a cyan laser, and then put them in the same beam. So that way you could measure that, that distance that way. But at least there's probably issues that, I wouldn't foresee with that method. Yeah. But at least it's less detectors.
It's hard to know now, but it's good having as many ideas as possible. So I did a video on my second secret channel. I have a few people watching that. And I talked about this project. And every comment, not every comment, but a lot of comments, of course they mention talk to styropyro. But I also see use the prism, like prism. Do I pronounce that?
Yeah, like a prism, like a piece of glass.
It's always, but every time I do a project, it's always like some kind of gimmick that is reoccurring. Do you think prism is a gimmick for this type of things? Like, do you see that would be used in some way? Is that for splitting the beams or something?
Yeah, you can combine. With a prism, you can split light or you can combine it.
Is there any reason to use it for something like this?
Yeah, there is. In fact, there's a lot of, especially older lasers that have like a prism to combine beams or to split beams and reject them. But in terms of if you want to combine two laser beams, usually the easiest way to do it is with a dichroic mirror. So a mirror that bounces off some colors while letting others through. It's easier to align it that way, because with a prism you gotta put it both in at a really narrow angle. So if you have big lasers, you gotta distance them really far. It's kind of tricky to do it with a prism, but with a dichroic mirror, it's pretty easy.
I see. So it wasn't exactly a gimmick.
No, it's like the same idea but easier to do.
Okay, I will mention some things that is reoccurring, and you can see if that's IR.
Yes.
Laser diodes and receivers. Is that something?
Mm-hmm. That's what a time of flight sensor. It would use an infrared laser diode and detector.
LED receiver.
Instead of a photodiode, you can use an LED as a detector that way.
Okay. So this is alternatives to the same kind of basic.
Yes. Yes.
I noticed on one of your videos you record things and your camera sensor is like broken afterwards. That's very high power, right? Will I have those issues?
Yeah.
Should I use like a bad camera?
With the lasers you're going to use, the only way you'll do that is if you actually put a beam straight into the camera. So if just filming the lasers, like you touching them and stuff, your camera will be fine. But if one bounces off like a mirror and shoots your camera, then it can burn a hole in it. But you won't be having lasers that are so strong that the camera will break just by looking at like the beam, you know.
Let's say I forget my protective guard. I probably won't. But let's say, how fast do I get blind from 50 milliwatts directly?
So like if you were to like bounce a 50 milliwatt laser straight in your eye, like it would be unlikely to just make your vision totally black, but you'd get like a spots, you get like a black spot in your vision that would never go away. Ooh. So it's like, it's not, it wouldn't be ideal.
It's like exactly like your camera on those videos. Kind of.
Yes. Unless you get like a really big one that just like, blows out your retina.
Where do you recommend me to buy lasers from? Is it AliExpress or is it eBay or where's your go-to?
It depends. Like I get a lot of parts from eBay. It depends how much of the work you want to do on the electronics. Like you can go on eBay and buy these like cyan laser modules that all you do is you hook them up to 3 volts or 5 volts or whatever they are, and then they make a beam. So that's like pretty easy. That's on like easy mode. Otherwise, you can, just buy all the parts from eBay or who knows, a million places and do it that way. I can give you like some links and stuff. So I can give you recommendations.
There was talk about using fiber optic on the guitar neck. I will read it straight up because we use 6 side glow optical fibers, 1 for each string, and a light sensor for each string that determines brightness. Same idea with finger redirecting laser light, I think breaking the laser light, but the light goes into the side of the fiber optic and travels down the neck to a light sensor at the end. The brightness of the light indicates how far along the fiber the finger was pressed.
I still having trouble wrapping my mind around that one.
Yeah,
I don't fully get that one because and that's another thing. So if you're measuring brightness, now that's an analog signal. Okay. And the problem with that is like your detectors are going to be nonlinear. They're going to have a nonlinear response. That becomes a nasty thing to try to turn into useful information. Okay. Like it's better to have like on or off for each note, just because like if you're going to use brightness as a way to like change volume or like minor pitch changes, that sucks. That would be rough.
Okay.
That would be rough. For your notes, you're probably best off doing on or off kind of things.
Yeah. And the other one is using cameras to detect it instead of
like you could do that. I'm really bad with computers, but considering all like the like computer vision algorithms that are out there right now, like you could certainly have a camera that literally just like looks where your finger is on the guitar and plays it that way. That is a possibility.
But when you break the laser like this, I noticed your guy on the Discord, he broke a few lasers for us, and the laser really spread. That's a big push. Maybe that's for the camera or that he was using smoke, but it was like really a big bright spot. Do you think that could be an issue? That is like it's not very defined, it's
so you could have light hitting the wrong things.
No, more like if you light up your finger, it was a lot of spread almost. It looked like on camera, at least. I'm not sure how much it is in real life.
Yeah, because it'll be pretty bright. Like if you have a laser that's strong enough that you can see the beams, so when you touch it, it's gonna look fairly bright. But I feel like that's a good thing, right? It's then you can see where your fingers are, and I think that could be cool.
Oh yeah. But do you think that would cause issues with the photodiodes? But like it's so much light everywhere. I don't know where it comes from.
Oh yes, that's a possibility. Okay. However, you can always stack filters on. You can always put filters over your photodiodes so they don't get oversaturated or the wrong ones don't go off. And like those don't have to be anything complicated. You'd have to try and error it, but I mean, any sorts of films you could get really cheap. You could just cover it, and you could find something that works. That one would be pretty easy.
Related to filters and stuff, do you think there's any reason to have different colors for each string? Would that help with some kind of separation because it's different wavelength, I guess?
You could use different colors to help you. Like for one, like if you had a problem with like you're touching one string, but the light goes into photodiodes on the other string and like gives you a false, so it like falsely thinks you're plucking that string, then yeah, you could use separate colors and then corresponding filters over each row of photodiodes. That way it would, so you'd only pick up light from that string. Yeah, you could do it that way, but it's, you know, that would, like that, it's doable, but you know, just more complexity.
Yeah.
And it could have a function. It could work.
And I guess also it would be like some lasers are more visible than others in the certain power. I guess you could just see that like by looking. Yeah,
you can always adjust it. But if you do like a full rainbow though, then it's hard to have laser goggles that block all the colors. Like it's easy if you have like green, blue, and violet, cyan, like that's easy to block. But if you start throwing red and yellow, then it gets tricky.
Have you ever had legal issues with anything coming back to you?
I plead the fifth. I mean, I've had the FBI show up at my place.
Related to lasers?
Yeah. No, not related to lasers. Okay. No, it's just chemicals.
Then it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I take that back. I had the FDA get on me once because
isn't that food?
Yes, but they regulate. The FDA regulates lasers in the United States, and this was like 10 years ago. Some nerds and I we pooled together money to have these custom laser pointers made of like a lime green color. It's, you know, it was just nerdy stuff.
It sounds kind of nerdy.
We ordered them at the proper power of 5 milliwatts, but customs opened up the package and measured them at like 6 milliwatts.
They measured it in customs.
They measured it. Yeah, which normally doesn't happen. But still, they happened to do it for this package, and it was 1 milliwatt too much, and they stole them. And it was like $1,000 worth of laser pointers. And I was furious.
Is there any reason for me to get something to measure power? It doesn't really matter, right?
It doesn't really matter.
Wait, if I wear the glasses, I can't see how strong the lasers are. So how do I tune the strength?
A camera is one way to do it. You just, and I do that pretty often. You know, I have, you know, a camera that watches something. And another idea is you can take like VR goggles or AR goggles, I guess, with pass through. So it'll block your eyes and you just have a camera so you can see.
Yeah.
You know,
I was thinking of putting the phone like this and I could like.
Yeah. And I've done that kind of thing before too.
Like cardboard on the sides.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, you can do that.
Would you be up for a call like way later on when I actually have something you can maybe watch? So you can see when I get blind instead of imagining.
Yeah, I would be happy to watch it later. Yes.
That would be great. So I think that's it. It was very nice talking to you.
Yes, it was great talking to you as well.
Cool. I will leave now. Have a good day. Let's talk.
Yeah, sounds good. Yes, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good one.